Hello, darling. Let me add my people to me live. Hello, everyone. Hello, give me a second. Let me make sure I let my viewers know I'm on live. Give me a minute, darling. Give me a second, darling. Hello, everyone. Hello, give me a second, darling. I'm trying to add my people to let them know I'm on live. Hello, darling. Hello, everyone. Hello. Hello, darling. Hello, darling. Hello, everyone. One second, darling. How is everyone's night, darling? Hello. Hello, darling. Give me 1 second. And I can get the ball rolling. I miss you guys, the 4th of July. It's just messed up all of my lifetime. Hold on, darling. I'm so sorry. How's everybody's night, darling? Okay, how you doing, darling? It worked hella finna go back in. Oh, I'm sorry, darling. Maybe next time. You look so pretty. Thank you. Hello, darlings. Hello, hello, hello. Share my live, darlings. Oh, shit. Hold on. I had my phone on. You guys are starting early, I see. I had my phone on silent. I'm so sorry, darling. I don't know what happened. I'm calling someone back. Hello, darling. Did someone call Mizz Klehoe?
Hey. Yes, I know.
Hey, how may I help you, darling?
Hey, so you want to be a psychic read for free?
Yes, darling.
Okay. I got a question.
And I
I'm
have
kind
it.
of curious.
Uh-huh.
I'm kind of curious about my husband cheating,
Mm-hmm.
and I want to know, like, is he cheating?
Okay. Let me ask you something, darling. What makes you think he's cheating on you?
um, the way his schedule has changed, everything about him is kind of like shifted, switched up a little bit from.
Mm. It's kind of shifted, darling. Have you changed a different shift at work?
Yes, he has.
He has. Now let me ask you something. Have your shift with your pum pum changed?
No.
It hasn't changed, darling.
No.
So let me ask you something. What was the reason for a shift change at work?
He got a new position.
He got a new position. So with that new position, did it come with a new bitch, darling?
It is your week.
I'm sorry?
His wig come from Wish.
I can't hear you, darling.
Did your wig come from Wish.com?
Did my... No, darling, but let me tell you something. Your pussy came from Dee Dee's Discount.
And your lipstick came from the Dollar Tree.
But let me tell you something. You sound fat and bothered, darling. That's what the real gag is. You do, darling. You sound fat and bothered. Let me tell you something. Let me tell you something, darling. Let me tell you something, darling. Darling, let me tell you something. Your pum pum just as regular as your body.
You said what?
Your pum pum is just as regular. No, darling. See, let me tell you something. You tried to come from my wig because you could never look like me, darling. That's the God's heaven truth. Yes, you would never, darling. You can't afford to look like me, darling. You can't afford to look like me, darling. That's the thing. Let me tell you something. Yes, you're right. You could never, darling. I've told you before, I'm a rich hoochie. You a broke bitch. There's a difference, darling. There's a difference. There's a difference, darling. You called my line on your Metro PCS or your Straight Talk, darling, trying to talk shit from me, darling. And you're sitting up here looking like a Dee Dee's Discount or a Kato's type of bitch. You damn right your man is cheating on you, bitch, because your pussy is raggedy, darling. And so is that slaw-ass mouth of yours, bitch. You know what, something, darling? Let me tell you, if you're a bold bitch, darling, come on my live. Come on my live. I'll accept you, darling, if you're a bold bitch. Be a bold bitch.
Your wig is giving us straight girl vibes.
But you dream about it, don't you, girl?
Never.
You just mad because your mother looks more like a man than I do.
No, you already.
I know, darling, but see, you don't understand that. You don't. I have another caller. Let me tell you something. If you apply for Burger King on 3rd Street, darling, they'll hire you because you look like shit. Hello, thank you for calling Mizz Klehoe, darling. How may I help you? Oh, I guess they didn't want a piece of this either. Girl, you girls are coming early. I like it. You called to fuck with me, darling, but let me tell you something. I can't be fucked with, darling. Can't be. Let me call somebody back.
Hello.
Hello, darling. Sorry about the mess.
I was just calling to let you know you serving face and makeup and hair. You look better than most of these hoes out here.
Thank you, darling.
Yes, ma'am.
It's the truth, darling. Some of
It's the
Some of these girls need to take a lesson or two. I got a couple wigs for sale for these dry wig having assholes, darling.
So that's all they were.
Yes,
That's all
darling.
they were.
There's no, I can't argue with synthetic Cynthia, darling. I
Yes, I
cannot.
was just calling to let you know I support you. I don't support these naked-headed hoes.
Thank you, darling. I really appreciate you.
Okay.
Thank you. You see, there's the love, darling. There is the love. The wig is pretty. Thank you, darling. Let's see who has something to say. Where'd you get that wig? I made it, darling. I made it. That wig tough, though. Tough, bitch, for tough. Yes, darling, it is. Because let me tell you, after I beat somebody's ass and they're trying to pull my wig, it'll still be in place, darling. So much to say about the quick weave you bitches are wearing. There's nothing quick. Nothing looks good quick, darling. Thank you. Remember, the lines are open. I forgot to put the number down here because someone was fucking with me in my life. Remember to give me a call, darling. I think that may be the same bitch that got me blocked from my other page. 901-410-7941, darling. Give me a call. Yes, darling, the fucking synthetic Cynthias of the world, darling. They don't know good hair if it bite them in the ass, darling. Matter of fact, my pussy has is more straight than that shit that hoe's got on her head. You missing a number. Oh, sorry, I am. Let me unpin that. Thank you for calling Captain D's. How may I help you? Bitch. Hold on, let me fix the number, darling. 901-410-7941, darling. Okay, 901-410-7941. Darling, the contacts. That's 9 digits, not 10. Wait a damn minute. You wait a damn minute. I need one in the loving it and the makeup slays. Thank you, darling. I did it all myself, darling. See, that's what's mad when some of these hoes don't have any talent, darling. Thank you for calling Mizz Klehoe. Speak your mind. Hello, darling. How are you? I'm doing good. You know, some hoes just tried me, but they need to try Jesus.
So just give me a general reading.
Give you a what, darling? I'm sorry.
A general reading.
Okay, darling. Let me pull the card.
Now listen. If you give me a real reading, I'm going to send something to your cash app now.
Okay, darling. I like that. Well, let me tell you something. So I just pulled the card, and it's the card of a joker. Let me ask you something. Are you still with your baby's father?
Yes, I am. Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's the joker, darling. That's the joker.
Oh, he gives a bit of a chest there. How can you tell? I mean, what do you mean a joker? What do you mean a joker?
What do I mean, a joker, darling? He's playing all kinds of tricks and games.
You know what? That's believable.
Yes, darling. Plays all kinds of tricks and games, darling. And let me tell you something. Don't give him your card this week, darling. Don't give
Why
him.
not?
Because he's going to go pick up another bitch in your car.
And he shall be driving my car so right.
Yes, darling. And let me tell you something. You're going to have some Cheeto Puffs in the back of your car for your child. He's going to give them to the other bitch's child and tell him to give them to little man.
I'm going to fuck him up.
Yes, darling. Fuck him up. But let me tell you something. He gets paid Friday, darling. I don't know if he has a job or that bitch get paid, but either way, stick in there till Friday, darling.
Okay, I'm thinking that for Friday.
Yes, darling. Yes. Oh, but that's all the time I have for you. I have other callers, darling. Thank you for calling Mizz Klehoe, darling. How may I help you?
Hey,
Hey, darling. How are you?
I'm finding yourself.
I'm doing wonderfully well. How may I help you, darling?
I'm on Facebook and it said call me, so should I call?
You know that I'm doing readings, darling.
Oh, you do reading?
Yes, darling.
Oh, see, I don't mess with that there now.
Well, darling, let me tell you something. Do you get food stamps, darling?
You say what?
Do you get food stamps?
No.
You don't?
No, I don't.
Well, something is telling me to tell you you need to apply.
Oh, shit.
Yes, darling.
Oh, what else?
Yes, darling.
What else?
And I also, do you have any children, darling?
I have a son and I'm pregnant.
Yes, I see that, darling. Let me tell you something. I also see the child support court card, darling.
Yeah, my baby daddy on child support.
You're going to get an increase, girl.
What's it? He ain't working right now.
I know he's going to start working at a temporary service. You better get $15 than $0, darling.
Oh, shit.
Yes, darling.
What?
Huh?
from?
I'm from Memphis, Tennessee, darling. Well, I'm originally from the Caribbean, but I reside in
Oh,
Memphis, Tennessee.
okay, that's cool.
Yes,
I'm half
darling.
Haitian.
You're half Haitian.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm half Malaysian. The-
Oh, okay.
Yes, that's the hair I have in my head, Malaysian. Yes. So, darling, I
So
have
you
other.
have a,
Huh?
oh, you have to go?
Yes, darling, I have other cars, darling.
Okay, cool. Have a good night.
You too, darling. Love you much.
Bye.
Thank you for calling, Miss Cleo, darling. How may I help you?
Yes, you're doing reading.
I'm sorry?
You're doing reading?
Yes, darling, I am. How may I help you?
I need a reading, baby.
Yes, darling. For one, I can hear that you need to close your car door.
It's closed.
You just closed it because it was beeping out of control, darling. Now, let me ask you something. What do you need help with, my child?
Whatever you can help me with, baby. What can you help me with?
Okay, I can also help you with something. Let me tell you, where are you calling from, child?
Raleigh, North Carolina.
Do you have a Kroger's nearby?
A what?
A Kroger's. Do you guys have a Kroger's?
Yes, we have clothing.
Yes, darling. Something is telling me this. You're going to save 10 cents off your gas, darling.
Off my gas?
Yes, darling.
Okay, so I need to go to Kroger.
You need to go to Kroger's and get you some gas, darling.
Thank you, baby.
You're so welcome. Have a good one. Thank you for calling, Miss Cleo. How may I help you, darling?
Girl, you know how long it took to get on this line?
I'm so sorry. I am a busy bitch, darling.
Oh my God.
Are you hurt?
Yes, I'm good.
Okay, darling. How can Miss Cleo satisfy your mind?
I'm looking for a reading.
You looking for a reading?
Yes.
Okay, what type of reading would you like, darling? I need a little bit more
I
information.
need my love life. I need to know what my man is doing.
What's
I
your...
need to know is it good or what, like my future.
Okay, you need to know your future, darling. Right now, I
Yes.
see that you're messing with someone. Or do you
Yes.
have your eye on somebody in particular?
No, my man.
Your man, so that's your eye. That's who you have your eye on. Let me tell you something. My cards are giving me birth cards, so that means, you know what that means, darling?
Huh?
I just pulled the birth card. Do you know what that means, darling?
Oh my God.
No, it's not what you think, darling. You should stop fucking with him and you should fuck with the person who gave birth to him, which is his father.
Huh?
Yes, darling, fuck his father.
Okay.
Yes, darling. Let me tell you something. Let me tell you, you think that your boyfriend has some good dick, darling? Wait till you fuck his father.
Oh Lord.
Yes, darling. And let me tell you something. He's always going to keep your grass cut and make sure you have some gas in your car, gal.
I mean, he do be looking, but that's my man.
I mean,
Okay.
darling, you're going to have to look back, darling. You're going to have to look back. Look back at the father and wink. Let me tell you something, darling. Did you see that man on the 4th of July?
Yeah, I seen him. The whole family was there. Yeah.
Exactly. He seen you and you seen him, darling.
Yes.
It wasn't those firecrackers that you seen, darling. They wasn't in the sky. They wasn't just in the sky, darling.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
darling. So let me tell you, get it cracking, darling. Fuck the father.
Okay. Well, thank you.
You're welcome, darling.
All right.
Thank you for calling, Miss Klehoe, darling. How may I help you?
Yes, I want a reading.
Yes, give me some information about you, girl.
I want to read it on my love life. I'm an Aries, and my nigga, he's a Libra.
Oh, those lying ass Libras, darling. Let me tell you something, girl. Something is telling me that the man that you with has some good dick, darling.
Yeah.
But something also tells me that you got some good poom poom, girl.
Uh-huh.
So let me tell you something. When two good poom pooms and good penis collides, darling, they make a good. Something is telling me to tell you to stay with him, darling.
Okay.
But let me tell you something. Is he trying to be a rapper, girl?
No.
Okay, because I was gonna tell him cut that shit out, darling. No, tell him 2 Chainz made it. He'd won't. He's too
Okay.
old for that, darling.
Okay.
Yes. So what I want you to do is I want you to go in there and suck your man's dick, darling. Show him that you appreciate him, darling.
Okay.
Yes. And remember to drink a Sprite after you get done. That always helps me with all the sperm bubbles.
Okay.
Yeah. Have a good night, darling. And thank you for watching.
Thank you.
Thank you for calling Mizz Klehoe, darling. How may I help you?
Get your ass offline.
You know what? Fuck you, you white trash. You sound like you stay in a fucking trailer park.
What the hell?
What the fuck, darling?
What the fuck, darling? The fuck, darling? Why you all out with that bull crap?
Now, who the fuck wants to FaceTime me? Why the fuck would somebody want to FaceTime me, darling? Okay, look, let me tell you something. You sound like a child. Let me tell you something. I'm fucking your father. Yes. Hello. Thank you for calling Mizz Klehoe, darling. Stop FaceTiming me, whoever the fuck that is. I'm sorry, darling. How may I help you? Hold on. Give me a second, darling. Hold on, darling. Who is this? Shit. I'm sorry. Thank you for calling Mizz Klehoe, darling. Hey, how are you, darling?
I'm good.
All right.
Okay, I need some advice.
Okay, darling.
Okay, so my boyfriend, he the type that get mad when I don't call him if I'm around other people or if I don't answer the phone or don't text him, but then he turn around and do the same thing if
Mhm.
things change. So, what should I do? Like, should I leave him? Should I stay? Should I give him a chance?
Look, darling. My cards are telling me to tell you you need to go. Let me ask you something. Is he working, darling?
No,
Oh, my. What is he doing besides dicking you down, darling?
nothing.
So you got your answer. Get the fuck on, darling.
Okay.
You toss him out in that fucking game too, darling.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome, darling.
Thank you.
Let me tell you something. I'm finna put this person's number out. The 662 number. Stop FaceTiming me. Back to back. I'm finna block your ass. Thank you for calling Mizz Klehoe, darling. How may I help you?
You know you going to hell.
Yes, with your mother and your grandmother.
Yeah, I do. So.
Thank you for calling Mizz Klehoe, darling. How may I help you?
Hey, yes, I'm trying to get a reading.
Yes, darling. Change your panties.
Grandmother.
Yeah. You got to get out the Wednesday drawers, darling. Today is Monday. Jesus. Thank you for calling Mizz Klehoe, darling. How may I help you?
Hey, girl.
Hey, darling. How are you?
I'm looking at you right now. I'm loving this week, girl.
Thank you, darling. I made her myself. I call her Reese. Thank you for calling, Mizz Klehoe, darling. Thank you for calling, Mizz Klehoe, darling. How may I help you? Hello, darling. Thank you for calling, Mizz Klehoe, darling. How may I help you?
Hello, can I get a reading? I think my boyfriend's cheating on me.
He is, darling.
Oh my God!
He's.
What should I do?
What you should do is you should fuck his best friend for one night only.
Okay.
Yes, darling.
Okay. Thank you so much. You look so beautiful.
Thank you, darling, and you as well. Pine Bluff, Arkansas. How can Mizz Klehoe help you, darling?
You sick son of a bitch.
Who the fuck are you, darling? Thank you for calling, Mizz Klehoe, darling. How may I help you?
How you know you wrong?
I am right.
On lie like this, bitch.
Yes, darling. How may I curb your appetite, darling?
No. Hey, get off lie.
No, bitch. How about you die? How about you die?
Some black folks.
How about you die, darling? Let me tell you something, darling.
Go
Go play in oncoming traffic, darling.
Oh, stop it.
Go play in oncoming traffic, darling. And let
No,
me
you
tell you,
don't play
no,
me.
girl, let me tell you what you do. You go to the shooting range, darling, and run out in the middle of them practicing. That's what you do, darling. That's what you do, girl.
You ugly fuck. Okay, get out of here.
Girl, let me tell you something, darling.
You last off.
Let me tell you, I done pulled the card. I pulled the card that says you got the right bitch wrong day hoe. So let me tell you something. You motherfucking buttertooth asshole. You bow-legged, ugly, nasty foot ass bitch. Let me tell you something, darling. You can't fuck with me, not even a picture of me, darling. What the fuck do you want, darling? I mean, hello? Thank you for calling, Mizz Klehoe, darling. How may I help you? Yeah. Thank you for calling, Mizz Klehoe, darling. How may I help you? Hello?
Hello?
Yes, how may I help you, darling?
You so beautiful.
Thank you, darling. Is that it? Thank you for calling, Mizz Klehoe, darling. How may I help you?
Hey, Miss Cleo, how you doing, baby?
I'm doing good, darling. How are you?
I'm wonderful, girl. You know, I called you about a week or so ago, and I had a situation with my man. You know, and he was messing with the neighbor downstairs.
Oh, I remember, darling.
Oh, so things took a turn lately here, and now you didn't tell me this was in the car. How about now, all of a sudden, we got a little three-way going on?
Oh, my, darling. Tell me more.
Yes. Oh, and honey, I see the reason why he been going down there. That bitch got some good pussy.
Oh, good pussy, Connie, darling. Yes, darling.
Honey, we've been having fun, but see, I just want to know, should I continue to fuck with the bitch, or, you know, I don't know.
Let me tell
I don't
you.
know if I should keep this thing.
Let me tell you something, darling.
I'm listening.
It was a song that came out. It said, get that bread, get that head, then leave.
Then leave.
Then leave.
Then leave.
Bitch, then leave.
Hey, bitch, then leave.
Get that bread, get that head, and leave, darling.
Hey.
Yes.
Twerk on me.
Yes, club gone. Yes, darling.
Hey.
I say, whatever floats your boat finds you the most, darling. If you burn the bitch head up, or if she's burning, whatever the case may be, darling. If you're having fun, keep having fun, darling.
Now, you don't see no herpes in that shit in the car. Pull the car for me, baby. I got to know.
Now, let me tell you something, darling. I do see a bitch with a polka dotted dress. I don't know what that means, but, you know, let me tell you something, girl. Some motherfucker. Let me tell you. The shots, darling, they work. So you're fine, darling. Whatever it is, you can get a shot and you can be gone, darling.
Oh, that bitch will get a shot. I'm going to shoot her in her hand.
Exactly, darling. That's why I see the holes, because you're gonna shoot her with a Uzi. Yes. Pop, pop, pop.
Yeah.
Yes, darling.
Okay, I see it. Thank you
Yes.
so much, Miss
You are
Klehoe.
so welcome,
I'll keep you
darling.
up.
And I'll be on this
Thank you.
Saturday as well, darling. I'm just trying to make up from the 4th of July, darling.
Yes, I'll make sure I'll let you know, give you an update, baby. Thank
Yes,
you so
darling.
much.
Have a great night.
You too, baby. Bye.
Bye. Thank you for calling, Miss Cleo, darling. How may I help you?
I'm sorry,
Say what? Thank you for calling, Miss Cleo, darling. How may I help you? Hello? Thank you for calling, Miss Cleo, darling. How may I help you?
Hey, Miss Cleo, how you doing today?
I'm doing good, baby. How are you?
I'm doing good. I had some questions I wanted to ask you.
Ask me, darling.
Okay, I've been trying out anal sex lately, and I've been wanting to know how do I possibly clean out without giving him the old Waffle House smothered and covered.
Now, wait a minute. Say that in slow motion for me, girl.
I've been trying out anal.
Anal.
Anal, yes.
Okay.
And I just want to know, how do I, do it to the point that I don't end up giving my man a old Waffle House smothered.
Oh, you're trying not to give him a shitty deal. Is that what you're trying to say, darling?
Yes, Miss Cleo, yes.
No shitty deal, darling. Let me tell you something.
Yes.
You're going to have to be like Erica Badu, darling, and pack light. If you're going to go anal, don't eat an hour before, darling.
Don't eat an hour before. What if I'm hungry? Because I don't want to be hungry. I need my energy.
Let me tell you something. You better be hungry for his dick, darling, or you're going to give him a shitty deal, darling. And you do not want to give him a Mona Lisa.
Oh,
That means you're going to paint a portrait all on the man's dick, darling.
But I don't understand. He has a small dick, so how am I?
Well, if he has a small dick, then you can eat a whole motherfucking meal, darling. It's not going to reach anywhere, darling. Let me tell you something. Let me give you an old trick, darling. Let him think you're hitting it from the back, girl, and squeeze your thighs real tight, girl.
Okay.
And put him in between your thighs. Act like just put a little lube there, darling, and let him go for what he knows, darling.
But if I do that, won't it be an opening at the other end of it?
No.
If he's fucking me between my legs, it should be another opening on the back part.
He's not going to reach you, darling.
That is true. That is true.
Yes, darling. The dick is too small, darling. Now, let me tell you something. The man that you're fucking, he has a friend that's a little bit taller than him.
Oh my, is he light skinned or dark skinned?
The light-skinned one, darling.
Oh, the one with the dreads?
That's the money shot, darling. Now, that's who you need to be fucking, girl.
Oh my God. So do I have to prepare with him?
Do you what?
Do I have to prepare for him?
Darling, yes. Because let me tell you something. He's going to be in your lower and your upper colon.
Oh, and I'm going to have me an old-fashioned colonic.
Girl, you're going to have a whole nasty session, darling.
Oh, thank you, Miss Cleo. I need that.
You're welcome, darling. And remember, get that bread, get that head, and leave.
Can I steal something out of his pocket?
You better, bitch. You better.
Thank you, Miss Cleo.
You're welcome, darling.
Have a good night.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for calling, Miss Cleo, darling. How may I help you?
Miss Cleo, my pussy is burning.
Your pussy burning, darling.
Yes, it's burning and it is hurting. Tell me what to do about it.
First thing you want to do is to go to the emergency room, bitch. Now let me ask you something, girl. Why is your pum pum burning?
Okay.
Why is your pum pum burning, darling?
I fucked my sister boyfriend.
You fuck your sister, bro. So that means your sister pum pum is burning too. Ask her how did she get hers to stop.
It was my sister's boyfriend.
Yes, darling. So that means your sister's pum pum is burning too. So ask
I
your.
don't know about her pom pom.
You got to ask her. Say, girl, let me ask you something, sister.
Well, then the bitch gonna know that I'm fucking her man.
No, she won't know. That's because you asked her, is her pussy burning? Say that you seen her for the 4th of July and you seen her itching. Ask her, is her pum pum, is her pum pum burning?
Oh, shit.
Yes, darling. You have to be smarter than a 5th grader, girl.
Well, I'm only in the 4th grade.
You said what, darling?
I'm only in the 4th grade.
You only in the 4th grade. Well, that's why you didn't go to the 5th grade, darling. Yes, darling. But it'll be okay, darling. Get you some Vagisil and some peroxide. Oh. Thank you for calling, Miss Cleo, darling.
Hello, yes, I need advice.
What kind of advice do you need, girl?
My boyfriend cheated on me and I burned his house down.
So this is left eye?
Yes.
But I thought you was dead, darling.
What? Say it again?
You burnt his house down.
Yes, I burned his house down. I think he called the police on me.
Okay, let me ask you something, girl. Where are you hiding right now?
I can't tell you that.
Smart girl. Smart girl. But let me... No, darling, I'm not trying to get you caught. I'm trying to get you out the way. Are you far from his house?
Yes, I'm far. I'm safe. I just need to know what to do.
What you need to do is cut your hair off and dye it blonde and get a sex change. Because you're going to jail for arson.
Okay, but I have this dog with me. What do you want me to do?
Go take it to the nearest Chinese restaurant, darling.
They gonna cook the dog.
Exactly, darling. You want no evidence, darling.
Okay, yeah, you're right. Thank you.
You are so welcome, darling.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm going to call the local police department.
Okay, but I have this dog with me. What do you want me to do? Go take it to the nearest Chinese restaurant, darling.
This motherfucker right here been FaceTiming me this whole time. Get back in the camera. Get your dust ass back in the camera.
Bitch, you ugly. You're funny looking at.
Get your dusty ass back in the camera.
Bitch,
Looking
you
like...
ugly.
Girl, shut up looking like Felicia off of Friday, bitch. Come bring your dust ass back in this camera. Girl, look at that house. Y'all see this bitch on crates. Thank you for calling, Miss Cleo, darling. How may I help you? Let me fix something real quick, darling. Who the fuck was that? I'm sorry. Yes, darling. The numbers are still open. No, I'm not bringing anyone on my live. Where's my contacts book? Thank you for calling, Miss Cleo, darling. Hold on, darling. Wait a minute. Okay, hello? Yes, darling. How may I help you?
I just told you black lives.
Girl, fuck you and your life. Get off my phone.
No.
Yeah. Thank you for calling, Miss Cleo, darling. How may I help you?
Yes, girl, look, so I got the bread in the head, but now the man won't leave my house.
Oh, my. So you got the bread in the head. No, you did it backwards, darling. You did it backwards. When you got the bread in the head, you're supposed to leave his house. You don't supposed to bring him to your house, girl. How you gonna leave? Oh, my. The more I try to teach the girls. Thank you for calling, Miss Klehoe, darling. How may I help you? Yes, darling. Ooh, girl. I know what the fuck, darling. The motherfucking phone's been ringing since I got on me live. Jesus, I gotta find this one other number, darling. Thank you for calling, Mizz Klehoe, darling. How may I help you?
Hey, Miss Cleo, how you doing today?
I'm doing good, Mr. Kleophas. How are you, darling?
I'm doing good. Listen, I called you last week about my damn kids. I got tired of them.
Mm-hmm.
And you told me to give them that drink with the Sprite and the melatonin.
I did, darling.
Did you call the cops on me?
That wasn't me, darling.
'Cause you're the only person that I called about these goddamn kids.
No, it was the middle child, darling. It was the middle child.
The middle child.
You see, I pulled the card. That's two right there. That means that's the middle child.
Oh, because they came in the CPS, because you know I had told you last time I was scared of the CPS because I didn't want them CPS people to come get me because I already had, you know, my past things with them.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, and you told me to get that Sprite and that melatonin and that alcohol and give it to them, and you said they won't wake up.
Yes, darling. Are they woke?
One of them passed.
Oh, my. Well, darling, I mean, we all can't make it, darling. We all can't make it.
And now I'm like, you know, on the run like Beyonce and Jay-Z because I don't want the cops to catch up to me.
Okay, now let me ask you something, gal. Darling, where are you hiding?
Are you gonna tell anybody? Because I think you told last time.
No, darling, I promise you, I would never tell a soul.
Well, I'm actually at you know, the little things that you put the clothes in for Goodwill.
Yes, darling, you're in one of those little porta potty thingies, or the little drop-off station.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, which one, by chance?
I'm over there by the Wendy's. You know, I told y'all I live in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm over there by the Wendy's that got
Hello?
burnt down.
Okay, you said the one by the Wendy's on what road, darling?
The Wendy's over there that got burnt down.
Over there by the Wendy's that got burnt down.
Yes.
Okay. Yes, he's at the Wendy's that almost got burnt down. Do you know? Is it? Oh my. The goddamn fool actually listened to me. Oh my. Thank you, darling. I did tell last time. He fucked those kids up, darling. Thank you for calling, Mizz Klehoe, darling. How may I help you? Hello? Hello? How may I help you, darling? Hello?
Hello?
How may I help you, darling?
My coochie itch.
Your coochie itch. How many of you, are y'all fucking the same nigga?
Yeah.
Oh, my. What's his name so I don't fuck him, gal?
Brian.
His name is Brian.
Yeah.
Oh, my. So let me tell you something, that girl, you need to go to your local. Does it burn real bad right now at this point?
Yes.
You need to go to the med, darling. I see you calling from Memphis. You need to go to the med because your pussy is in trauma, darling. Your pum pum is in trauma, darling.
Yes.
So you need to go to the, you know, they're the only place in this tri-state area that has a burn unit.
Yeah, it burned really bad, babe.
Yes, darling. So go to the med and go to the burn unit, darling.
Okay.
Yes, and I'm sorry for that. And if you pass by a fire extinguisher, darling, just squirt it a little bit.
Okay.
All right, darling. And you have a scratchy night.
Okay.
Thank you, darling. Now let me ask you something, girl. Why are you guys fucking the same man who got your pum pum burning and itching? Thank you for calling, Mizz Klehoe, darling. How may I help you?
Hello.
Hello, darling. How may I help you? Hello, darling. How may I help you?
Yes, hi.
Hello.
Yes, hi. I'm calling because
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. You're just gonna have to stop watching me live.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You're fine,
I'm
darling.
calling because I was in a bit of a predicament. I set my boyfriend's car on fire 2 weeks ago, and I'm scared that the police are gonna come to me because they came to my house today asking about my whereabouts and where I've been, and I'm slightly terrified.
Don't be terrified, girl. Let me tell you something. You never let your left hand know what your right hand is doing, darling.
Okay, so what do I do when they come back?
When you come back, let me tell you something. Do you know how to bake, darling?
Yes, I know how to dig. Do I
No.
need to bury him?
No, do you know how to bake, darling?
Oh, yes.
So let me tell you something. You need to make them a good old pie, darling.
Oh, a shit pie, like from that movie?
No, you need to make a perk pie. Make sure it's full of Percocets and even lower tabs, darling. See, what you want to do is bust their heart, darling. Or you know what, darling? Let me tell you something. Make some lemonade and pour some lean in it, darling.
But my goal is to kill him, so will that work?
Yes, darling, let me tell you something. So you're going to get an 8-ounce glass of lemonade. Do you hear me, darling?
Yes, I hear you.
Fill it up full of lean and crush some perks and some lower taps and some trazodone in there, darling. And you stir it up and you give it to the detectives, darling.
And let the detectives drink it and kill him too?
Yes, darling. You're going to have a lot of burying to do, darling, but don't worry about that. Because you can go to your local Home Depot, darling, and rent a bulldozer. Just bury them all in your backyard, darling.
So, is there any way that I could possibly get some help from you? Because, like I said, I really don't want to get caught by the police.
And I don't either, darling.
So, can you help me?
I'm helping you now.
Okay, but I can't bury all these people myself.
You can try, darling. You never say never. Or never say you can't, darling, because you can.
Okay, so I'm going to get my best friend to do it with me.
Yes, darling, that's your best bet to get your best friend, darling. Because let me tell you, if this is your first time watching me show, Mizz Klehoe never wear orange, darling, because she's been there before.
Yes, this is my very first time, and you're a very delightful person.
Thank you, darling. I try to be, even when the bitches are testing me.
Ooh.
Let me tell you, I'm like an unstudied pop quiz. Every time you try me, darling, you're going to fail.
Oh, my.
Yes, darling.
Well, I appreciate it. Now that I got that advice, I'm going to try to make sure I didn't leave no evidence behind with the burned car. Because it's still in the driveway. But
let me tell you something, darling. Shoot the car up. Make it look like it's a drive-by. Shoot the car up, and then you call the police and say, oh, and put, no, Lord, yes, that's a good idea, darling. Okay, so let me tell you. After you done killed the people, drag them back to their car, do a drive-by, shoot the officers in the back of the head, and then you call the police and be like, I'm on the ground. Somebody's shooting up my house. See, they can't ask the police officers what happened because they're already dead, darling.
You must have done this before.
I'm not telling a soul, darling.
Okay, well, I'm going to follow your guidance.
Yes, darling. And let me tell you something else. After that, darling, the police are going to take you down. They're going to question. They're going to let you go home after questioning you. Burn your house down, darling.
But then who do I blame for that?
The person that shot your house up did the same shit to you, darling. You got to think smart, not hard.
It's just I'm scared. I just don't want to get caught. I don't look good in stripes.
Well, let me tell you something, darling. Just tell the people you did it.
No.
Well, I'm giving you all the fucking options, darling.
Okay, I'm going to do what you say.
All right, darling.
Thank you.
Thank you for calling, Mizz Klehoe, darling. How may I help you?
Yes.
Yes, darling. How may I help you, darling?
Why the fuck you have that weed on?
Why the fuck are you calling from Indianola, Mississippi?
Because it's my fucking fault.
Because you stay in a fucking slump hole. That's why. And you want to know something?
What?
Your mother fucked your grandfather and made you, you little dirty bitch. Yes, darling. Thank you for calling, Mizz Klehoe, darling. How may I help you?
Hello?
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 Yes, darling.
I'm on your live right now.
Well, thank you for calling.
Shout me out. Say Danisha Buck on your live. I just want to get my name.
What's your name?
Danisha Buck.
Danisha Buck. Hello, girl.
I'm on your live.
Yes,
Okay,
darling.
that's
All right, darling.
I just wanted to see this for your mom.
Okay, darling. I love me fans, darling. Thank you for calling, Mizz Klehoe, darling. How may I help you?
You ugly as fuck.
You said your mother's ugly as fuck, darling. Is that what you said?
No, I
You said your grandmother is going to die tonight. Is that what you said? Is that said? Oh, okay, darling. Hello? Yes, darling. For the young lady that just called me trying to check, girl, I hope your grandmother's oxygen runs out. The bitch is gonna be gasping like a fish, darling. Thank you for calling Domino's on Winchester. How may I help you? Domino's on Winchester. How may I help you?
Hello?
Hello?
What number is this? Who is this?
This is Domino's. You call me. Okay, darlings. It's been real. Me got to get my rest because unlike some of you hoes, I actually have a job. And I'm going to bed, darling. And let me tell you something. Don't call me phone unless I'm alive. Don't call me phone unless it's fucking Saturday. Don't call me phone unless it's about some dick. Don't call me phone unless it's about some money, darling. Okay? Yes, darling. So remember, I will be on this Saturday at 8, 9 o'clock. I'm going to say nigga time, darling, because I never start on time, darling. It takes time to be this beautiful. And I'm going to turn this phone. You're going to die in 7 days, darling.
Why would you say that?
Jesus Christ. Okay. Thank you, you guys. And like I said again, anyone that's interested in me wigs, I have 7 different wigs. Look on me page, darling. 7 different wigs, darling. That's for sale, including this one. Everything can be recurled. I have lashes for sale, darling. I have a makeup class coming soon. Oh, your mama. Yes, darling. So, thank you. Have a hot ass mess. What's a hot ass mess, darling? Yeah, anyways, nigga time. So, I'll see you hoes and hoes at later. Thank you. And have a blessed night, darling.